Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Let's start our video with a story about a classic Karen, our OP's mother who took entitlement to new levels when they moved to a larger town in New Zealand. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. My entitled mother, not disabled, parks in the disabled parking and gets a fine. My mother is a mega Karen, and I have 16 years of stories to tell about her entitlement. Here's yet another one. This happened in 2004 when I was 14. We just moved from Australia to New Zealand. The town had a population of around 12,000 people, which was a big step up from the town we moved from, around 2,000 people. It seemed like my mom's entitlement got worse by having an extra 10,000 people for her to annoy. Within a month, my sister and I had settled into our new schools, and Mother Dearest found her preferred, cheapest grocery store to shop at. I should mention that my mom's not disabled, but did that stop her from parking in the disabled parking spot? Nope. The first month went fine, until my mother got lazy. Whenever we went grocery shopping, she would always complain while walking towards the entrance that there was never anyone parked in the disabled parking spot, and she would say things like, "I don't see why I'm not allowed to park there, and there's nobody in this damn town that need it anyway." This last comment was total BS on her part, as there was a paraplegic who lived in the town which she knew about. And regardless, those spaces are for disabled people, not her. Then one day, me and my sister were in the car while Mom was driving to the grocery store. We usually parked close to the front door, but to the side where there were usually a few spare parking spots. I was expecting her to stop there, but she didn't. Instead, she drove all the way to the front and parked in the disabled parking spot. Me: "Mom, this is disabled parking. You can't park here." Mom: "Of course I can. The spot is vacant." Me: "It's illegal for you to park here. You'll get a fine." Mom: "No, I won't. I have the right to park here if there's no disabled person parked here. I don't see any disabled person, do you?" Me: "Whatever, Mom, but you're going to get a fine." I got out of the car and walked across the street to the park. I didn't want to be seen with my mom, but I wanted to keep an eye out for the parking officer or police person who I knew would come. Even in a small town, the police were very diligent about rule breakers. And sure enough, 10 minutes later, I saw a policeman walk up to the car, check the license and lack of disabled sticker, and write a ticket that he placed on her windscreen. I sent Mother Dearest a text that I'd meet her at the petrol station when she was done. I didn't want to be seen getting into her car, but I made sure to hang around so I could see her reaction when she saw the fine. Sure enough, 10 minutes later, I saw my mom come out of the store, see the ticket, and she flipped out. She started cursing and stomping her feet on the ground like a child that lost their toy. Only in this case, it was a fine of $80. I chuckled to myself as I walked to the petrol station a few blocks over. I got there a few minutes before my mom did, and I could see the anger on her face as she got out of the car, slammed it, and started filling up her tank. Me, faking concern: "What's wrong, Mom?" Mom: "You shut your mouth." I smiled and got into the car. When we got home, my mom got straight on the phone to debate the parking fine. I overheard the call. Mom: Yeah, I got a fine for parking in an empty parking spot. There was nobody else parked there, but I had to park there because I have a bad leg and I can't walk that far." What? No, I don't have a sticker, but that doesn't matter. Hold on, what? But, no, disabled? No, but, oh, you stupid bleepity bleep, I'm not paying this fine. And she hung up. A month later, I'd assumed she'd paid the fine, but obviously not. She got a letter in the mail regarding an unpaid fine, which was now $100 due to relayed payment. Mom went to the courthouse and paid it, but I didn't hear the end of it for 3 months after that, as she'd complain about it any chance she got, making out like she was the victim. I wish I could say that she learned her lesson, but she didn't. She parked there a few more times and, shock, horror, got more fines. A Karen never learns. That's the problem with these type of people. They only see that there's a close parking spot they don't get to park in. They're incapable of seeing that the reason the parking spot is because the person has a disability that makes it harder for them. And our second story. I haven't worked here in 10 years. I worked in a pharmacy part-time while I was in college, and then full-time for a year when I graduated. I quit to take up my first real job in January 2013, but I had a great relationship with the manager and my colleagues, and I was asked if I'd be interested in working one Sunday a month for some extra cash and to stay on the books in case real job didn't work out. I agreed, and for about a year I covered occasional Sunday shifts whenever needed. My manager left in 2014 and a new one came on board. He understood the arrangement and said he'd keep it going, but I didn't hear from him for a couple of months. He rang me one Thursday to see if I could cover the Friday. I explained again that I only really did Sundays when needed. He accepted that, and I never heard from him or anyone there again. Fast forward to a few weeks ago, at least 10 years since I last worked a shift there, I get a call from HR lady asking me was I still available to work. I said no, explained what had happened, I'm not interested in Sunday retail shifts. HR lady says fine. In that case, she needs a letter of resignation dated back in 2014 for their records. I say no, I'm not doing that. I never resigned. I was made effectively redundant as I wasn't offered any hours. She says if I don't submit a backdated letter of resignation, then I must still be available for work so I can send her my available hours Monday through Sunday between 9 and 6. I say nope, not doing that either. I'm not available to work. She keeps repeating that I either resigned back in 2014 or I still work there. I say that none of that is my problem. I never resigned, so I'm not giving her paperwork to that effect, and I no longer work there. It's not up to me to correct their records for them. She told me she couldn't understand why I had a problem backdating a resignation, and in the end, she told me she was ending the call because we weren't getting anywhere. I've checked all my tax certs and allowances dating back to 2013, and because I transferred all my tax credits and allowances over to my new jobs, there's no effect of my 0-hour contract from the pharmacy. It was just weird that they clearly had realized I was a floater in my system, and they didn't have a procedure in place other than insisting I was still an employee and I had to either officially quit or else make myself available to work some shifts. I'm tempted to see if I'm due any severance or holiday pay for the years I worked there, but didn't work there, just out of spite. Edit. I'm in Ireland, by the way. At-will employment isn't a thing here. The process of leaving a job is pretty heavily regulated, and there's a whole bunch of legal stuff that needs to happen that never did. Those people are so deep in their corporate nonsense that they don't understand common sense anymore. It's depressing, really. And our next story. Looks like our HOA is embezzling money. My wife and I live in a condo. We're quiet and respectful, rarely have people over late, and are at work most of the time. We both drive 1 hour to work and back to get out on the weekends, so we aren't home all that much. My wife has been living here for 5 years, and I moved in this past August, though I've stayed over plenty of times before. The condo association has a board that consists of 5 older men who live at the condo, and one of them is the head. We joke and call them the condo mafia because of the way they treat us. For example, the first week when I moved in, the condo head, Steve, came outside screaming at me for washing my car, which apparently you cannot do, though it's not anywhere in the very extensive rules and regulations document. I read it in detail. I also got a call for having a friend come over on a motorcycle. Steve was screaming at me on the phone. He was going to have it towed. Again, no rules in the docs against motorcycles. So I just had my friend park it across the street on public property. This time I asked Steve on the phone to please be professional and not yell and understand that I was new. He screams, "No!" and hangs up on me. There have been a number of past incidents as well. I should mention Steve has a number of cameras all over the property. He must have a way to monitor them at any time because he always knows immediately what's going on at the condo. For example, I walked around the building right before I moved in to get to know the place, and Steve called my wife asking why I was sneaking around and stealing things. I didn't take anything, or would I even think of it? He has in the past accused my wife of stealing people's packages and other stupid little things. These cameras were $18,000 to install, and Steve legally should have held a vote to ask the residents if they approve, but he just went ahead and did it, as he said at one of the quarterly meetings. The residents here in the condo either hate him, are afraid of him, or are old and don't care as long as the upkeep is handled. Steve also speaks to my wife, Asian, like she's a child that doesn't speak English. I suspect he's a tad racist, but I wouldn't make any accusations. He knows my wife works and was born in New York City, yet he treats her like a foreigner. The rest of the association is just as rude. I got a call from my wife that another guy in the association, Rich, told her, "Don't let the door hit you on the butt," as she walked past him in the hallway today, leaving for work. Now I feel like this is a borderline sexual comment, and I was really fuming when I heard. I'm torn between saying something and just trying to not be confrontational. I fear they could become vindictive, and since they're here more often and have access to everything, they could certainly make our lives more difficult. The last major problem we have is that it's like pulling teeth to get financial records for the condo. My wife's an owner, and Steve will flat out refuse to provide receipts and documents for things, even though he's legally required to. He and his wife own multiple homes and drive new cars, so we're just a bit suspicious how the condo fees we pay every month are spent. Especially when the condo's been over budget the past few years, and we pay an assessment fee on top of the condo fees. Her and I get really upset thinking about these guys. We want to feel comfortable in our home, but feel like prisoners sometimes. We've just tried to lay low and be under the radar as much as possible, but we're wondering if there's a better way. We're counting the days until we can just move out, but that probably won't happen for a year or so. And our last story. Living in the country. In essence, Ken and Karen decided they wanted a property in the bush as a weekend getaway. So they bought a small place that had been a hobby farm on 5 acres just down the road. They didn't want it as a farm, so Ken gets to mow 5 acres every weekend. It's important to note that this was right next door to a pre-existing dairy that had been there for years. Dairy cows need to be milked twice a day, every day, so a dairy runs 365 days a year, dawn to dusk. There's noise and mud, cow poo, calving, bulls and cows doing what needs to be done to make more cows. A dairy never stops. Yet, despite seeing this, Ken and Karen still bought their weekend getaway next door. Then they started to complain. First, it was yelling at the farmhands over the fence when the cows were being driven into the milking yard at dawn, then hostile letters, then trying to get all the other neighbors to agree with them. They were well and truly laughed at. Then presenting an official letter to cease and desist in which they'd made up themselves. Finally, they tried to go legal, only to find no lawyer would touch the case, and the local council would not stop a rural business from operating legally in a rural area. Finally, Ken and Karen appear to have admitted defeat, and we no longer see them on the weekends. The grass has grown long, and there are for sale signs up. Good riddance. Some people should be permanently banned from owning and purchasing any land or real estate. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.